This is one of the most, if not the most popular Deltarune ship as soon as Chapter 3 and 4 came out in June 2025. And despite its popularity, it's heavily mischaracterized by the fandom. And I will be talking about why that is, other misconceptions about both characters, my assumptions for why so many fans get these things wrong. Okay, sorry, adding this in real quick. When I say a lot, I'm actually meaning some. I just want to make that clear.
Ah, no mommies! Aloe vera!
We'll start off with Tenna. Tenna is the main antagonist of Chapter 3. He became one of the most beloved characters in the franchise, and there's many good reasons to this. He's a really fun antagonist with a sad backstory and a motive that many fans can relate to. However, because of this, he is often wombified by many. We see a man that is desperate for love and attention, that he'll lash out at both his employees and the fun gang to get what he wants. This behavior is unhealthy, obviously. Forcing people to stay by his side and treating them poorly for things not going his way is signs that he is a flawed character with untreated issues. Unfortunately, people like to see Tenna as the character that can do no wrong, and have completely ignored sections of the game where Tenna has shown to be hostile towards others. Tenna isn't a bad character, nor an unredeemable villain by all means. He's just flawed. In SPAMTENNA, a large portion of fans deem Tenna as the victim and Spamton as the abuser, essentially erasing both of their personalities and wanting this to be another toxic yaoi fanfic that you'd see on Book Talk. Tenna was a victim, but not when it came to his relationship with Spamton. They both had issues, secrets, and motives that they didn't tell each other. However, they both did care about each other dearly. Tenna was originally using Spamton, pushing Spamton into sharing his secret to becoming a big shot, and likely refusing to take no for an answer, shown by how persistent Tenna is with the fun gang and how he talks about how he had to persuade Spamton into agreeing. This was already public knowledge, however, and you could find these pieces of dialogue and add them together by playing Chapter 3 normally and looking for secret rooms. The scene where Tenna scares his employees with their contracts is also evidence that he isn't some innocent baby, and he is smart enough to know he has an influence on others to get what he wants. But fans play the game with their eyes closed, it seems, because as soon as the 2025 winter newsletter came out, a ton of fans swapped up on Tenna and started viewing him as the abuser in the relationship with Spamton. Fans would heavily criticize and hate on Spamton previously because he, quote-unquote, abandoned Tenna with a malicious intent, apparently, and that Spamton was totally rude, abusive, and unloyal. However, it was stated in the newsletter that Tenna knew that Spamton would face consequences if he agreed to the contract. Their dynamic was kind of swapped according to the fans that didn't understand the characters in the first place, but, Tenna knew about the consequences, but wanted to face them with Spamton. He cared enough about him so much that he was willing to go through the consequences with him. Originally, it was for a selfish reason, but Tenna eventually grew to care and love for Spamton, which is why he's so heartbroken and bitter when Spamton is gone. If you're able to fix Tenna at the end of Chapter 3, you have two options: bring him back to Castletown or give him to Metaton. I feel these two options really open another fate for Tenna. He gets another chance to be loved and admired again, understanding you can't force people to stay and that drifting apart is natural. He has flaws and definitely things that still need to be worked on, but he's on the right path for improvement and self-growth.
Pink cheese carbones! Chinga tamale!
Now, I might have a bit more to say about Spamton, since I have been fixated on Spamton since the release of Chapter 2. People have mischaracterized Spamton for years, and oftentimes water him down to just the joke character, which is ironic because he is also a fan favorite character. Spamton is the secret boss for Deltarune Chapter 2, who is also the main antagonist for the weird/snowgrave route. Spamton is a washed-up salesman that takes on the form of a puppet who is desperate for freedom. While I won't go into his lore entirely, we will be picking up on certain dialogues in reference to Tenna, Spamton's downfall, and his hatred for other Darkners. If it isn't obvious, Spamton is homeless, alone, and struggles to make any sales ever since the person helping him had disappeared. This is important because I believe these things mirror Spamton when he was originally a normal Addison, which tends to be the least recognized era of Spamton. Before his big shot era, Spamton was just like the other Addisons, just a little quote-unquote unlucky. He had a short stature, couldn't make sales, and he was so desperate to be a big shot that he'd do anything for it. And I want to make it clear that the reason this is so important is because many fans love to portray Big Shot Spamton as this sort of smooth, manipulative hotshot that knew how to charm his customers, when Spamton wasn't like that at all. Spamton isn't great at fitting in, socializing, or persuading people. The only reason he got to the top is because the person that was helping him had gotten there. Without that person, he had lost it all and mirrored his Addison self. I mention this because when it comes to his relationship with Tenna, people think Spamton had manipulated him and abused him, when truthfully, Spamton wouldn't be able to manipulate him even if he tried. I believe Spamton was using Tenna as well, and tried to pretend not to care about him, but it was obvious he cared so much about him. I have no idea where the whole idea of Spamton being an abuser came from, but he is not one. And I think people often forget Spamton also had experienced his own abandonment by the Addisons and everybody else that ditched him after he lost it all. Spamton isn't some sort of manipulative asshole that hated Tenna, no matter how much he tries to say that he hates him. Spamton was also bitter, hurt, and alone. Not only would that not make sense to say Spamton hated Tenna, but also Spamton didn't lose it all for nothing. I'm sure he had trust issues and was skeptical that Tenna was using him, however eventually gave in to Tenna's pleas for the secret that Spamton had kept from him. This shows how much he sacrificed for Tenna. He knew that there would be consequences if he agreed to the contract, but he loved Tenna so much that he risked it all for him. It gives you a different view on Spamton, visualizing how selfless and caring Spamton once was for somebody he truly loved. He soon became angry at everybody for a decision that he made, because now he's all alone and nobody was willing to interact with him until Chris came along. Even after the events of Chapter 2, Spamton is shown he still cares about Tenna by how excited he reacts when he sees that Tenna had kept a peepus. I believe it's safe to say that these two had no malicious behavior towards one another and that neither of them were abusive.
Horchata! Ah! I'm off!
There might be a variety of reasons on why fans may get these characters wrong. My big guess, though, is emotional attachment. Having emotional attachment doesn't necessarily mean you won't comprehend how flaws work, but I do believe that the ones that mischaracterize them in this way have personal bias and selectively pay attention to things they want to see/hear. I can understand that many people may see themselves in Tenna, as Tenna is a wonderful representation of abandonment and how it truly affects somebody. So I think the individuals that relate to said character does not want to be associated with their flaws or toxic habits. Same reason why I believe those individuals will refer to Spamton as an abuser, because he is a reminder of somebody that they don't like. But we all have to remember that these characters are more than their trauma and their decisions, and that they wouldn't be the characters we love without their flaws. You shouldn't base somebody's worth on their flaws and experiences when they're actively learning and growing from them. Especially when these behaviors aren't irredeemable. It's about understanding and growing, and making mistakes is a part of the process of being a human being. Or people just don't know how to read. In conclusion, Spamtenna is in no way, shape, or form abusive, and some of the fans can't read. Spamton and Tenna are flawed characters, and so is every other Undertale Deltarune character that tries killing kids because history said it was okay. Overall, I hope you guys enjoyed.